Hello, and welcome to the Modify with CED orientation for students. We are a program of the West Virginia University Center for Excellence in Disabilities. Modify is a part of the West Virginia University and WVU Health Sciences Center. The CED is part of a national network of the Association of University Centers on Disabilities. CED's role is education and training, technical assistance, direct services, dissemination of information, and research activities. Modify fills the role of direct services. CED has a presence in all 55 counties in the state of West Virginia. We have approximately 90 staff, 13 programs, and 3 clinics, and multiple state and federal partners. On the map on your screen, the counties located in blue are the counties where there is a CED presence. We have an office in Morgantown called CED North, an office in Big Chimney called CED South, and then in the rest of the counties we have workers stationed in the local DHHR offices.
The goal of this session is to increase awareness of the Modified Education and Training Voucher Program, to enable students to effectively utilize this funding stream and to understand the program's expectations. The session objectives are to identify the program purpose, to identify who is eligible for ETV, to identify what post-secondary schools are eligible for ETV funds, to identify how ETV funds can be used, to identify how ETV funds are calculated for each youth, to identify student responsibilities, and to discuss the Modify Specialist role in the students' lives. The Modify program purpose is to ensure the youth are provided education, training, financial support, community linkages, and other services as needed, to support and serve youth in a manner that complements their own efforts towards self-sufficiency, to assure that youth make the transition from foster care to independence and from primary education to post-secondary education successfully. Who is eligible for Modified ETV? Youth who are currently in foster care or who aged out of foster care setting on or after their 18th birthday, youth who went into legal guardianship through West Virginia Department of Health and Human Resources after the age of 16 or were adopted from foster care through West Virginia DHHR after the age of 16. Youth who are currently receiving ETV benefits and who are maintaining minimum program expectations, or youth who were former ETV youth and have completed the necessary criteria to be readmitted. A post-secondary school's eligibility. These are schools that meet the West Virginia or the U.S. Department of Education's criteria to qualify as a post-secondary educational institution. You can research your school here. If your school accepts the Pell Grant or your program is 1 year or more in length, Modify funds may be used to assist in your educational program. College Navigator can be used to determine if your school of choice meets the criteria for post-secondary educational institution.
And your Modify worker can also give you guidance on that.
How ETV funds are used. Funds are provided to eligible students to help offset the cost of a post-secondary education. ETV funds may not be used as income. Any amount allocated to the students for educational purposes that exceed the cost of attendance may be considered income and taxed as such. Therefore, you are only eligible to receive ETV funds that do not exceed the cost of attendance as allocated by your educational institution and that do not exceed $5,000 per federal fiscal year. Funds will be used to cover account balances first. Remaining balances may be used for program materials such as special equipment, school supplies, monthly educational subsidies, etc. You will get with your Modify specialist to determine your ETV award and decide how you want to spend your award. The following example is a breakdown of the cost of attendance for a West Virginia college. Your educational institution cost of attendance may differ. Check with your financial aid office for the cost of attendance at your school or check the College Navigator. They also have each school's cost of attendance. A school's cost of attendance may include an estimate for books and supplies, an allocation for personal expenses, an allocation for housing allowance, estimated tuition and fees, and a transportation allowance. Now, this may vary from school to school, but basically most schools' cost of attendance looks similar to this, and it's set by the schools. The cost of attendance for this school was total $14,510 per year. We then look at your financial aid award. Most financial aid awards look similar to this. They have a federal work study you can accept or decline. They have direct loans, unsubsidized, and direct loans subsidized. They have the Pell Grant. They have the West Virginia Higher Education Grant, and most have the West Virginia Foster Care Tuition Waiver. We look at the financial aid awards that you have accepted. In this case, this student accepted $9,962 of award money.
And just a note here, unless you have a really high cost of attendance, you should always decline the loans that are offered to you in your financial aid award package.
This is how your Modify Specialist calculates how much ETV award you receive. We take the cost of attendance. In this instance, it was $14,510. We subtract any financial aid that you accepted, which was, in this case was $9,962. That gave us a difference of $4,548. This student received this year, this student received an ETV award of $4,548, which we divided into 2 semesters, the fall semester and the spring semester. Now, if you'll notice, had this student considered taking a $5,000 student loan, the calculation would have looked much different. Next screen. Had this student taken a $5,000 student loan, the cost of attendance would not have changed, but the financial aid award would have changed. We do calculate student loans as a financial aid award, and it is calculated in our formula. So had this young lady taken a $5,000 student loan, she would have gone over her school's cost of attendance, leaving no eligibility for ETV funding. As a side note, this student did have to pay taxes at the end of the year. She received a W-2 from the United States Department of Education in the amount of $452, I believe it was, and she did have to pay taxes on that. Student loans do have to be repaid at the end of your, 6 months after you finish school program or leave your school program, student loans do have to be repaid. ETV funds do not have to be repaid. You can't file bankruptcy on student loans. Student loans are really not a good idea unless you absolutely need them. ETV extended funding. If you're enrolled and making progress in a post-secondary program before your 21st birthday, and we have grades from a semester before your 21st birthday, you may be eligible to continue ETV funding only until your 23rd birthday, or you complete the current program you're in, whichever comes first. All ETV funding ends on your 23rd birthday. If you drop out of your educational program after the age of 21, you may not reapply for Modify ETV services and funding. Once you drop or are withdrawn from a modified program after the age of 21, you are no longer eligible for ETV funding. Expectations for all ETV students: you must maintain a 2.0 GPA and an 80% completion rate. The completion rate is just you complete 80% of the classes that you sign up to take. If you are taking 12 credit hours and you drop 1 3-hour class, you're already below an 80% completion rate. That's a 75% completion rate. If you fall below this expectation, you may be granted one improvement period, and you must comply with the conditions set forth in your educational improvement plan for continuation of modified services and ETV funding. You must be in good standing with the rules and regulations of your educational institution. If the educational institution finds you in violation of their rules and regulations, this may constitute noncompliance with the modified expectations. You must sign a FERPA form with your school to allow modified staff access to your account summaries, financial aid, class schedules, and grades. If you do not, this may constitute noncompliance and you may be discharged from the program. And the FC18 contract may be terminated. The FERPA forms are just the forms that the school require that allows third-party access to these pages or to this information. Most schools require that you sign them at their school in front of a worker from that school. Most FERPA forms can be found in your guidance counselor's office or in the admissions office. If you receive a monthly subsidy from Modify, you must email monthly budgets to your Modify specialist by noon on the 7th of each month. If you fail to submit these by noon on the 7th of each month, you may not receive a check for that month. If you did not submit your budget by the 7th, do not call Modify staff inquiring about the status of your check when it has not been received by the beginning of the next month. The reason for this is it takes us approximately 3 weeks to approve a process and get a check back in your hands. That's why we need it by the 7th. It is your responsibility to let your Modify specialist know when you are experiencing difficulties and need assistance. It is your responsibility to make sure all necessary documents are received by your school. For example, your high school transcripts, your ACT scores, and your financial aid documentation. If you need assistance in obtaining these and getting them to your school, please contact your Modify specialist. You must keep your Modify specialist informed as to the contact changes in a timely manner. For example, your change of address, your telephone number, your email, etc. There is a lot of freedom with this program, and there is a lot of responsibility. Welcome to Adulting 101. We are here to help you on this journey when you let us know you need the help. Now, if we could pull up a copy of the budget form, this is the form that you need to submit every month by the 7th if you want your subsidy check by the 1st of the following month. If you'll look at the form pulled up, at the top, you need to put your name on the form every month, the month for which you're requesting the check. For example, this is October 4th. By October 7th, November's budget will be due. So you would put your name on this form. You would put the month for which you want the check, which is November. Then you would go to the income that you receive. If most everybody is going to receive an ETV subsidy, and most are going to receive a $200 ETV subsidy. If you have any other income in this area, please record it. You skip down to the expenses, and what we want to know is how are you going to spend your income? If you've totaled all of your income at the top and say it totals $500, what are you going to spend that $500? What are your monthly expenses? Do you have rent? Do you pay electricity? If you live in the dorms, you probably won't have any of the housing, but you may have transportation. How much is it going to cost you? Do you have your own car? How much is a bus pass going to cost you? Whatever your transportation expenses are. If you have food expenses, if you're living in your apartment, obviously you're going to have to eat, so you have to record food. If you're living in the dorms, you may have a meal plan, but you may also calculate funds in for fast food, pizza, etc. Then you go through the remaining portions of this expense sheet and just estimate how you are going to spend your funding. What are your expenses each month? Then you total your expenses. You subtract your total expenses from your income, and hopefully you have extra. extra income, extra at the bottom that you can put into a savings account. Most of us zero out, and I hope that you don't have a negative balance on the ending line. If you do have a negative balance on the ending line, you might want to get with your Modify specialist to see how you can better balance your budget. The budget form is just one of the forms required by the Modify program. This, again, your budget needs to be submitted by the 7th of each month to your Modify specialist. Some of the other forms we're going to go over that you'll need for the Modify program. The first is a W-9. This is a bit confusing. We need the W-9 filled out to be able to issue a check to you. Now, usually when we first meet with you, we are going to help you fill out the first W-9, but we need one of these every time you move. If you want your check to move with you, we will need a new one of these with your new address on it. Please allow 6 weeks for your check to transfer from the old address to the new address. To fill this form out, you'll fill out your individual name on the top line. The second line, you'll fill out your social security number. You only need to fill out the payment address, and this is where you want your check sent. Then you would add your telephone number. Don't worry about a contact person. The state uses the same form for businesses as they do individuals. So if this were a business, the contact person would be the accounting person. You would need to mark the next box as I wish to continue. Even if this is your first submission, we mark I wish to continue. Then skip down all the way to the bottom. Mark in the type of provider you are an individual. Mark individual. Skip the next portion and make sure you print, sign, and date the form. And again, every time you move, if you want your check to follow you and not continue going to your old address, you need to fill out one of these and then allow approximately 6 weeks for that change to take effect. You need to know that the checks sent from DHHR are not forwarded. So if you filled out a forwarding address and think that that's going to get your check moved, it will not. Checks and medical cards are considered third-class mail, and as such, they'll be returned to the state office. They will not be forwarded to your new address. So the next form we need to go over is a lost check affidavit. If you lose a check or you moved and the check, you don't know where the check went, you'll need to do a new lost check affidavit. Get with your Modify specialist. They can help you provide some of this information. For example, your case and your PIN number. Then you would fill out the rest of the form. You would use your social security number, and then you and of Huntington in the county of Cabell, West Virginia, for example. The warrant number is the check number, and your Modify specialist will help you with that. They will help you with the date it was issued and the total amount. Then you will need to go down. Don't sign it until you're in front of a notary, because a notary will require watching you sign it. But these forms do have to be notarized. Notaries are usually in your school's financial aid offices, in your school library. You can find a notary at public libraries or city halls. If you lose a check, it can take up to 6 months to get one reissued. Usually it doesn't take that long, but I've had them take 6 months to be reissued. One way to prevent this is when you're changing addresses, please plan in advance. Please get us, as soon as you know where you're moving, get us a new W-9 so we can let the finance office know that you no longer want your checks sent to the old address and to send them to the new. However, if a check does get lost, this is the form that we need to use, and please know that once these are submitted, we have no control over how quickly that check will be reissued. The next form that we can talk about that might prevent this is the fax direct deposit form. Direct deposit, if you have a checking or savings or a checking account, if you have a checking account, your funds can be directly deposited into your account, which would prevent lost checks. I highly recommend that you get a checking account. There are many options for free checking available out there. You could get with your Modify specialist and they may know of the free checking in their area. But a fax deposit form, this page tells you about it. The second page you fill out. Your provider number you will get from your Modify specialist. The provider name is you, your address, city, state, zip code, telephone number. And again, you don't necessarily have to fill out the contact name because that would be you. The second portion is your bank's name, your financial institution. Your routing number is the first set of numbers on your checking account. Your account number is the second set of numbers on the bottom of your check. You do need to send a voided check. With many of the free checking, they don't do checks anymore. They send a letter from your financial institution. You can have your financial institution write a letter for direct deposit. Some banks we have problems with. I know that the letters from Chase don't meet the state's requirement for whatever this letter they need is, and we always have problems with Chase letters. So if you can, try to get a check. Usually when you sign up for free checking, they'll send you a small book of 10 to 15 checks. You can void one of those and send in with it. The voided checks are the easiest to get approved for direct deposit. The letters are touch and go. Sometimes they'll accept them at the state office and sometimes they won't, and I haven't been able to figure out what the difference is or what's required. You would sign the bottom, print your name and the date. These forms do not go to your Modify specialist. They go to the address at the bottom of the form. This is for your protection and to protect your identity and your banking information. This goes directly to the auditor's office. It's the auditor's office that will set up direct deposit for you. If you have any questions about the deposit form, get with your Modify specialist. They should be able to help you troubleshoot some things.
Also, at the top of the form, the Modify specialist will give you the provider number for that.
The next form we'll go over is the educational probation form. If you know you're in trouble with school, the sooner you let your Modify specialist know, the quicker that we can get in there to help you, get you the resources that you need. However, if at the end of the semester you still are having problems and you've dropped below a 2.0 or an 80% completion rate, you'll get with your Modify specialist and fill this form out. You'll mark whether you drop below a 2.0 or an 80% completion rate, or if you've been put on probation with your school or financial aid office, these will be marked. Then you and your Modify specialist would determine what you need to help you do better the next semester. You'll sign a copy of this and give to your Modify specialist, and your Modify specialist will sign a copy and give to you. Each of you should have a copy of this probation form. This is your agreement that you will do these things next semester to improve your grades and or completion rate. If you make a zero, we call it zero bombing. If you fail everything and you haven't contacted your Modify specialist anywhere throughout the semester to try to get help, say at midterms when you were failing and you needed help, if you zero bomb, you will be discharged from the Modify program. You'll have to complete one full-time semester on your own with a 2.0 and an 80% completion rate prior to your 21st birthday to be eligible to be readmitted to the Modify program. We're here to help you. So if you are encountering difficulties, don't hesitate to contact us, because if you're not successful, we're not successful. So please contact us if you're having problems. The last form is not actually a form that we retain. It's called a FERPA form. It's the privacy forms that the schools give out that you sign to allow Modify to access your account information. We need to access your account summary to see what is owed on your accounts. We need to access your financial aid to make sure all of your financial aid has been applied appropriately and that you are receiving all the aid possible, or that you should be receiving. We also need a copy of your class schedule so we can see that you're enrolled full-time or that you're enrolled at all. We will be checking your midterms, so we need access to your midterms just to make sure that you're not having any problems. If you have an F on your midterms, we might contact you and say, hey, do you need some help? It looks like you're struggling in this subject. Can I get some tutoring for you? Did something happen that you need some counseling? Is something going on that we need to discuss and go ahead and make a plan for? And we will need copies of your final grades. To get these, we will need a FERPA release form signed at your school. Some schools allow guest portal or guest proxy access. I know Marshall University and West Virginia University have guest portal access. You can go into your student account, your online account, and give your Modify specialist access to those pages. That will prevent you from going to your admissions office or your guidance counselor to sign this form. You can do it from the ease of your computer. Just pull up your student account online, your student portal, go to guest proxy, and give your type in your Modify specialist email address, and then you will allow access to the grades, to the account summary, and to the financial aid screens. If you have any questions, contact your Modify specialist and they will help walk you through it. What will be the role of your Modify specialist? Our role in your life might vary depending on your individual circumstances. We may become your primary social worker. We may just stay your secondary social worker. We may just be the person that helps you with your school information and school stuff. If you're planning to attend a post-secondary educational program soon and I or another Modify specialist has not met with you, we need to schedule a meeting as soon as possible. If you already know me and we haven't met the plan for your next semester, please schedule a face-to-face meeting with your Modify specialist so we can plan your next semester effectively. We need at least 6 weeks notice that you intend to attend an educational program or that you're changing your educational plans. Please, before you make any changes to your educational institution or your educational program, please contact us first, because there may be some significant impact in you changing your educational program or your educational institution. We need to go over these prior to you withdrawing from your current educational institution. If you have any questions, comments, or concerns, please don't hesitate to contact your Modify specialist. Like I said, we're here to help you. If you don't let us know you need help, we don't know. If you don't succeed, we don't succeed. And what we really want is you to be the best you can be, and we're here to help you with that. Modify contact information is on the screen provided.
That concludes our webinar for today. We thank you for joining us. And again, if you have any questions, comments, or concerns, you can contact your Modify specialist. Thank you and have a good day.